And hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Podcaster Nation. That's right, I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted more. Folks, that was a brilliant, brilliant move because, we have a lot more for you. The reason we have so much more for you is because this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And our guest today is, that's right, a podcaster. Folks, we have all sorts of stuff for you here today. I've had the opportunity to talk to this gentleman before several times. It's going to be a great interview. I already know that. And so I'm really excited to have him on. This is the place where we all come together to rise each other up. And this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get sailing and move forward. Here we go. All right, took care of a little technical difficulty, and now we are back, folks. Here we go. Please welcome to the show the host of the hit podcast, Walk Right, A Path to Healing, Steve Rotermund. Steve, how you doing, brother?
Roy, I am doing wonderful. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, man. Boy, I tell you what, every force in the universe is lining up against you and me talking. We've tried to do this a couple of times, and I got
I
lights
know.
going out on me. It's just amazing. But we are going to get through this today. All right,
As you said, we're,
I'm in.
we're two powerful men for the Lord, so better
That's
watch
right.
out.
That's right. Spiritual warfare is lining up, man. All right, Steve. I finally got through my intro. Only took me about an hour and a half to get us to this point. So, I tell you what. Tell everybody a little bit about who is Steve. What are you about, and what led you into this podcasting world, brother.
Yeah, no, Steve's a normal guy that had a bunch of trauma growing up. Uh, Later on in life, found out I was codependent, uh, married to an addict of pain medication, so fought that for 13 years, all while being a minister and a pastor of a church, had a radio ministry, and um, planted a church, so very involved. And unfortunately, didn't trust in God at that point. He wasn't fixing my wife. Of course, I wasn't concerned about me because I was doing great, right? Didn't fix my wife, and I ended up walking away from ministry and thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this on my own then if you're not going to help me. Went through 2 more years of hell and ended up getting a divorce and just walking away completely. And through counseling, slowly learning about codependency and what it really was. Uh, the counselor was like, "You need to find your identity in Jesus Christ." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Find my identity in Jesus Christ?" So I've been as a pastor for years. I know the Lord and Bible inside and out. And what do you mean? And he's like, "Well, you still are living in sonship as a adopted son." He's like, "You got to go into the full spiritual sonship." And I was like, "Wow, okay." So let's explore that. So we went down that road for many years, and that just opened up a whole different world and different view of God. You see, when I viewed God, I viewed him as my father, who was an alcoholic off and on, tolerated me, loved me the way he could, but tolerated me. And I think a lot of us have that view of God from a head figure in our relationships or our family. And unfortunately, we put that on who God is, and it kind of skews us for a long time, especially getting into religion and getting messed up with some of the stuff in there as well. So I was just a mess spiritually. I was a mess, emotionally, just as a mess as a human being, and slowly healing myself, or slowly God slowly healing me, getting through all of that, and was able to start stepping back into a church again. And then went through about 10 years of, are you ever going to use me again? And still battling some of that. I'm not good enough. I'm less than.
Yeah.
And he just got me to a point where I was told to write a book. And he's like, all that journaling you're doing would make a good book, wouldn't it? So I wrote a book, and that was the start of the ministry, Walk Right, uh, and Walk Right Ministries. Actually, my church plant that I had was called Walk Right Church. So the name stuck with me. I like the name because we want to walk right. And that's where the ministry started.
Wow. Okay. The book then came before the podcast, obviously.
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
yes.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what the when you wrote the book is primarily, if I understand this right, your story. right?
It is my story, and it's called God's Imperfect Plan is Perfect. And I didn't write it to become a New York #1 seller. I think I wrote it to heal the 6 year old in me that was traumatized from being sexually molested by a neighbor. And, the book, just real quick, is about, we can make bad choices. We have bad consequences from those choices. And I started questioning God. It's like, okay, what about all the things I inherited that I had no choice in? I didn't have a choice to have my mom abandon me at 4. I didn't have a choice for my dad to be an alcoholic and tell me that I'd never amount to anything and I was worthless. I didn't choose to be molested in a construction trailer. I didn't choose to marry a girl that was going to be, uh, ended up being addicted to pain medication and then heroin and meth. And, I didn't choose to destroy my kids and my family and my friends. And, it's like, what about all that? And God showed me that He was in every single part of it and just trying to bring me towards redemption and trying to bring me towards a place of healing through the whole thing.
Wow.
And that's where the book came from. And I think that's what, like I said, I think that's what was more for my healing than it was more for, hey, look at this. But it is a good story. If you want to know more about what happened and how I handled everything and how I ended up turning away from God and how He brought me back, and then finding out what that plan is. Because what we're taught in church is God's got this perfect plan for you your whole life. And it's like, no, there's going to be a lot of suffering in there. And we need to find out what that real plan is. So that's what
Yeah.
the book explains.
Wow. Okay. I mean, again, every time you hit me with that line about what happened to you, it still just sort of like, jars me. Even when I know it's coming.
Yeah,
Just can't believe the stuff that you went through. That's some tough stuff. That takes a lot of faith to get through something like that.
it does. And, it's no, there's people that have a lot worse story than I do.
Sure.
And some have a lot easier than I do. It's just my story and it's just how I handled it and how I got through it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I
And
never want to be woe is me, woe is me.
right, right. No, I know you enough at this point that I know that's not what you're out here doing. For sure. And you're not
Yeah,
telling a victim's tale. You're trying to empower people to get through their stuff. In a lot of ways, is kind of the way it sounds to me when I encounter your stuff.
yeah. I help people get unstuck. And after the book, I went on to um, schooling for Christian coaching. I did a lot of Christian counseling in church, but I went on to learn about coaching and helping people that way. And I created, if you remember, I created that online community for 12-step recovery to bring people together that we were launching here at the new year. And, uh, and then it turned into just a devotional podcast. And that's what we're here to talk today about. It's just the podcast. It's just a 15, 20-minute devotional podcast. I don't interview people. It's just a story, uh, God's word, and putting it all together. And if you remember, uh, Paul Harvey, do you remember Paul Harvey?
Oh, of course.
We're old enough to we're old enough to remember
Oh,
him.
absolutely.
So I kind of based it off that. I always loved it was, and here's the rest of the story. He always ended his show with here's the rest of the story, and he'd finish this story, and it was very powerful. He was a good Christian man, and he'd tell these stories. He'd talk about Jesus without talking about Jesus
Yeah, it
on
would.
the air. You know what I mean? He'd tie everything together. It was just beautiful. So I kind of stole that, if you want to say that. I kind of really loved the way that worked. So I start my podcast with a story and then I tie it to the verse and then I bring it all together at the end. And
Right.
sometimes it's my personal story. A lot of times it's my personal story, but a lot of times it's just quirky stuff from movies or history. And I just tie it to a verse in the Bible and just bring it all. Well, he brings it all together to hit a home run. So,
For sure. Give credit where it's due. Exactly.
right,
Yeah,
right.
I got you. I've listened to a lot of your podcast at this point, and I mean, you put out some very powerful episodes, but they are very different. You're not, any kind of a rut where it's always the same type of thing. I mean, you cover a lot of different topics, you cover a lot of different angles, you hit things from sort of a different perspective. Where do you get the inspiration for the different episodes for what you're going to talk about today? You know, when you sit down in front of that mic, do you already know? Do you plan it all out, or you just kind of let the Holy Spirit talk to you?
Um, I usually come up with a topic and I want to tie it to a story. And then I search the Bible verse that I can use maybe to relate to that story, or vice versa. I'm reading the Bible and it's like the Spirit will hit me and be like, hey, this would be good. And it's like, okay, then I got to figure out what I can tie it into. Is there something that happened in my life? Is maybe there's something I'll go on in history and search,
Mhm.
something in history to see if I can tie that in. Um, those kind of inspirations. But you always try to plan out, outline your show. And then when I'm actually talking, it just comes out. And when I'm actually editing the show, I'm like, man, I'm not that good. There's no that was the Holy Spirit. There's no way that I am that good. And you know,
I love
and
that.
it's
All
funny
right.
because if you go to some of the beginning ones, we just got this thing going, but if you go to some of the beginning ones, there's a lot of and I'm like pausing and thinking and I just wasn't getting it together and God's like, just let it go. You don't, we're not trying to get an Emmy here. We're just trying to love on people and help them get unstuck. And ever since I just said, okay, let's just do this, it's been flowing pretty good.
That's pretty good. I mean, just from listening to it, I didn't feel like you spent a lot of time on editing. You know what I mean? It sounded like it just was sort of naturally coming from you. Are you really editing the living daylights out of your show?
No, I'm not editing a lot. It's more or less if I pulled a history topic, I'll have to pause and pick up the piece of paper because I don't remember the date, right? It's like, oh, when, this guy, did this or that, I have to look at the date and then I have to, just brush myself up. So I cut that kind of stuff out.
I see. So you're cutting out a pause here or there and that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. We're not called to be perfect, you know.
I know, but that's still one of the traits that he's trying to get from me.
I
My
know.
OCD of trying to be the best, right?
Whenever I'm coaching podcasters, that's one of the first things I start to harp on is the editing. It's like you don't
Yeah.
need to be perfect. Try not editing, see how it works. So no, but it's good. Now you mentioned that you don't do interviews, and that's by design. Is there a particular reason why? You know, I mean, most podcasters are listening to this going, "Oh, you don't? Well, how come?"
One, I try to base everything now in ministry that God's leading me into.
Mhm.
And right now he's leading me into just being a voice, being an inspiration, and um, maybe touching somebody that's kind of going through something and needs to get unstuck. I think that's the ministry. I haven't, maybe it will change, but right now, inviting somebody, there's so many podcasts out there sharing traumas. I've been on a bunch of podcasts sharing traumas, and it's just, I don't think I need to be taken away from other people that are doing that. And I'm not trying to compete with that. I'm just trying to be love and light and get people to connect, and out of the 14 people that listen to the first few
Stop.
podcasts, uh, my wife probably listens to 3 times just to make me feel better. To both those numbers. No, I'm just kidding, having fun here. But you get somebody to reach out and they're like, "Wow, um, this podcast spoke to me," and I have the same trouble with my boys, and you know, I I would like to learn a little bit more, and that's where you can either invite them into coaching, you can just invite them into continuing to listening. Um, you want me to come speak at your Celebrate Recovery group, be more than happy to do that. So it's just that avenue of just, walking alongside people and getting them unstuck. Paul says in the Bible that, I love the Christianese that we use, and when I was going through it, I just wanted to punch somebody in the face, but they're like, oh, God never puts more on you than you can handle. And it's like, that's not even biblical.
No,
That's not even biblical.
no.
And Paul said that, he felt like a death sentence put upon him. And he still felt it to that day. And he's like, we never survived from it. It was just rough suffering. And he goes on to say it's because we need to walk beside people that went through that or that are going through that we went through it. Now we can walk beside them and bring them through that. and then they can go on and do it to somebody else. That's love light. That's kingdom living. That's bringing everybody forth. And, that's what I'm trying to do.
Nice. Yeah, I think some Christian therapist came up with that one time just to, appease a client.
Yeah. So these Christianese words that we have are just, it's like, do you read the Bible at all?
I love it. Yeah, for sure. All right. So your podcast really, and I think you mentioned this earlier, is in fact kind of a devotional that you put
Yes.
out. It's to listen to and connect, help you connect with your faith, and that type of thing, and maybe get a lesson from if it strikes home.
Yeah. I mean, who can sometimes sitting down and reading a devotion is kind of hard for some people.
Hmm.
They're just so busy. But to pop a 13, 15-minute podcast in on your way to work, on a walk, walking the dog, whatever, just cleaning up around the house, quick devotional, you get a word of God, maybe get a little inspiration, maybe get a little charge to maybe change yourself or look into transforming. And that's what the design was hopeful for.
That's great. That's great. And so the
Yeah.
podcast is designed to kind of do all that, but then also to lead people possibly into exploring your coaching opportunities. So tell us about what kind of coaching you're doing and who it's for, that type of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely, obviously trying to use it to promote the ministry. I'm not trying to just use it as a
Sure.
sales tactic, but people will come into a space and be like, man, I really need to get unstuck from this. And it's any kind of unhealthy habit. It's any kind of hang up that you have. It doesn't have to be those people, alcohol and drugs. It could be
Right.
overeaters. It could be anxiety. It could be anger. You could just be stuck, not motivated. You have anxiety. So I walk alongside those people from biblical principles. And I'm very clear on my website, very clear on my coaching website that, I do everything from a biblical principle. And even if you are agnostic, I have people that don't believe in God. I'm like, well, I'm not going to beat you over the head, but all my principles are biblical. And, and people still join line for that.
Nice.
Because
Yeah,
I
I
can be
mean,
love and light without talking about Jesus. I can be Jesus without talking about Jesus, you know, and the Spirit's going to impact them the way He wants. So, win win, right?
good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit's going to do what it's going to do. So all we
Yeah.
really can do is
And
get
I'm
people to
trying
open up.
to, yeah. And I'm also trying to get onto a speaking circuit again. Um, and, what's the best way to try to get back into a preaching or a guest speaker spot is for people to actually hear me communicate.
Hmm.
And that was another avenue that I could use to promote because, I got to get to the point where I can get to a church, get some clips of me speaking and go that route as well. But right now, um, this is just the outlet I have at the moment since we just started this thing.
Yeah, podcasts are great for that though. And a lot of
Yeah.
people kind of miss that point, but I know you haven't. You and I have talked about this, so I love that you're utilizing the podcast for that as well, to open doors for speaking. To kind of put yourself out there a little
Hmm.
bit. And hey, that just means that I may have to have you on a fourth time on my
Hey,
podcast. Step up to the mic for speakers. I mean, here we go. So I might just have to have you on in January or something, man. I don't know. Keep your book open, all right?
I definitely will.
So I've had very few people on three times. You're one of the few people who's doing the trifecta thing here. But I don't think I've ever had anybody on four times. So that would make you the first
Well,
in
thank you. I
history.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll have to look into that, man, for sure. You talked about, a little bit of promoting and promoting yourself and, so on. In terms of promoting the podcast and getting the word out there, what is it that you do to promote the podcast and, what's worked for you, what hasn't?
Well, I was kind of hoping you'd share all those details with me right now. I got my pen and paper ready.
Great
um,
answer. Great answer.
Social media is the only thing I have now. I don't have a uh, list of email followers. I don't have anything like that. It's a bunch of, if God is stepping into this, I got to do my due diligence. I can't just sit back and, oh, God's going to make all this work. No, He made the pathway. I just now need to find my way. connect all that too. So right now it's just social media. Again, and this is probably hard for people that are starting podcast. You know, okay, I've got a book, I speak, I coach. Well, they're all going to piggyback off of each other at some point. So I got to get speaking gigs to talk about the podcast so people will follow.
Hmm.
I need people to listen to the podcast so they invite me to speak. I need to do all of them to sell books. And to get coaching clients or somebody that says, "Hey, um, wow, my brother might really like this and might need some help from this guy." I it just all this has got to connect in some weird way, and I unfortunately don't have the magic formula. I just got to keep plugging away and keep plugging away. Now on my podcast, I don't mention anything about the community. I don't mention anything about the book. I don't, I just haven't gotten to that point yet. But eventually maybe I'll have a little commercial in the middle that I see people do where they talk about their ministry or they talk
Oh yeah,
about, hey, I got this book out,
yeah.
get that. I was going to hire this coach here after the new year that's going to, help me kind of find my way through that. So I heard he's really good. So
I know a guy. Yeah,
yeah.
I do. I know a
No,
guy.
I am looking forward to that. But, for those people that aren't doing podcasts that are, this is for the new guys,
Hmm.
you have to come under somebody as such as yourself or just you have to try to, you're going to get bombarded. I never knew there were so many people from India that really wanted to help me with YouTube and podcasting. I mean, I I must be really popular in India, but
I'm telling you.
um, no, there's a bunch of scams out there. But you
I
really
know.
need to find alignment with somebody that can be a mentor that can that's not offended or you want to see people succeed. You're not
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to help you. My podcast is going to be the best one. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you come from a place of, you know what? I'd love to see you do better than me. And this is
Yeah.
how I can help you get there. And we need to find people like that
Yeah. I
to help
appreciate that,
us.
man. I do. Thank you for
Yeah.
the endorsement. I'll have to play this episode a whole bunch of times now because you're you're helping me
Yeah.
out.
The checks in the mail, right?
Exactly. There you go. It's funny and coincidental, I suppose. As you and I are sitting here having this conversation today, one of my students that I didn't start working with that long ago just launched his 100th episode today, and he asked me to come on
Amazing.
and be his guest for the 100th episode. So, you know, we stopped working together a while ago because he learned it, and now he just has to do it. So but
Yeah.
then he called me back and said, "Hey, man, it's 100 episodes, and you're the one who got me here, so I want to have you on as a guest." And that's the stuff that I do it for.
Yeah.
you know, that's the kind of stuff that you celebrate. So I appreciate that. But yeah, in terms of promotion, social media is huge because we don't have to technically pay for it, and we get to
Right.
find a way to do it. So now I know we talked about monetizing, and other than the coaching and the book, you really haven't monetized the podcast yet, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that's something we're going to continue to work on. I get that. Um, when you're doing the podcast, and I know you mentioned editing before, do you use any sort of AI in the work that you do? And if you do, how do you use it?
I do, the only thing I use AI for is to create descriptions and titles for the episodes.
Okay.
Or maybe I have an episode title in mind, but trying to create a description that goes along with the verse I'm using. So I'll use AI to do that. As far as editing, I do it all myself. I use Filmora, Wondershare Filmora.
Okay.
Um, I used it plenty of times before editing stuff, and I'm really comfortable with the platform. Recording's really easy with the platform. It is, there is a fee that's comparable to Riverside. I tried Riverside.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not geeky enough to. It was just kind of complicated and confusing to me, to be honest with you. Some people are probably like, "Man, I know I see people all the time. It's so simple. It's so simple." Well, I couldn't find this, and I recorded, and I couldn't do this, and I'm like, the heck with this. And I just went back
Right.
to Filmora because I was already paying for it, and I use it. So, um, man, it's real easy to upload to YouTube, real easy to upload onto your desktop, and then upload to Buzzsprout. So, um, I'm just going to go with what I know.
Yeah, for sure. Are you on Rumble yet?
Um, I think I am on Rumble.
Okay. I
I
was
know
just
that
saying, I
through
might have asked you
Buzzsprout.
about that before. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I know when you go to Buzzsprout, you can upload to a request a couple. a bunch of different places.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that, I think that's one of them, but
All right. We'll
there's a
talk about
couple that
that.
have, yeah, there's a couple that haven't even responded to my request, and I've done all the steps. So it's like, wow, okay, well,
Hmm. Well, when you're a Christian broadcast of any kind, that can happen. So
yeah.
that's for sure. No, I love that. Have you, and that's another question. Whenever I'm talking to folks who have a Christian based, or a Bible based type of show, anything that's based on faith, I always wonder if you've sort of encountered any of that spiritual warfare out there with the podcast, where, you've been maybe shadow banned or, sort of held down or run into some hate, that type of thing. Just curious.
I haven't yet, to be honest with you. I know it's out there, and the only spiritual warfare I'm get attacked with is this episode sucks. Nobody's going to listen to it. You
In
know,
your own mind and heart. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how he's the accuser's going to attack me at this point.
Hmm.
And of course, I'm like, Father, I know that's not how you view me. I know that that's not who you think I am. It's not who you created me to be. I know that's not you. So let's just move forward. And you learn to dodge those arrows.
Yeah.
But had I haven't had hate mail or people like, oh, your view of the Bible's, theology. I haven't had any of that yet. But then again, I don't, if I had 100,000 listeners, you're gonna get the hate coming. But and I'll prepare for that when it happens because it will happen. But at this point, no. In fact, I was invited on a podcast with an atheist, and
Oh no.
uh, yeah, and they try to beat you up, and you just got to be humble. I was very, very humble, and hey, I'm not trying to change you. You're not going to change me, but let's just talk about why I believe what I believe, and you can tell me why
Right.
you don't believe, and we can meet in the middle. And it actually was a great show, and I had people reach out to me, and they're like, you know, I listened to all his podcasts, and you were like the most humble person, and because like I just said, I'm just here to be love and light. And if I miss the mark and I'm wrong at the end, what did I do? I did nothing but loving people. I
Right.
didn't, he's spending his whole time fighting people against it and why they believe it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, if I get at the end, I'll be like, oops. Or I get at the end and I'm like, all right, I'm glad I
Well,
listened,
I,
you
I
know?
applaud you for accepting that challenge and going on there. I'm sorry I didn't get to you ahead of time and warn you about that. We're not going to mention the name of that podcast on here because I don't want to do
Yeah.
anything to promote that guy. Um,
Yeah.
and that's odd because usually I don't care who we mention, and I'll promote anybody who's out there doing some good work, but not that guy.
Yeah.
Not that guy. And we both know who we're talking about. So,
Yeah.
um,
I thought it'd be fun though,
no, hey, like I said, I applaud you for taking that challenge and saying, all right, let's go. Let's see what we
Yeah.
got. I mean, that's brave in a lot of ways. So, congratulations on that, man. That really is. It says a
Yeah.
lot more about you than it does about him.
I
That
had
you
more
were
people
willing to
reach
do that.
out. I had more people shoot me Facebook Messenger and email from that show than my own podcast. So it did something.
Yeah. Hey, sympathy points count, right? I mean, that's a good thing. All right, way to
Yeah.
go. Well, good for you. That's another thing that you've been doing that I want to point out in terms of, promoting your podcast and your book is that you've been podcast guesting.
Hmm.
You've been on three of mine now, and I've seen you on other podcasts and stuff. So, how has that been going in terms of promoting your podcast and your book? And how do you feel that is for a promotion? Being on the other side of things.
I really enjoy it, to be honest with you. And I find that, you know, we'll see what happens because a lot of these haven't even aired yet.
Right.
I think only three of the 15 I've been on have aired. Or
Hmm.
no, I'm sorry, four of the four have aired now. And, um, you get a message here and there, or maybe you get an email. But watching the stats of my website, they've gone up,
Oh, nice.
300%. So something's happening. And again, it's one of those things that I've got the green light. God's leading me into it. Unfortunately, I want it now. And,
Right.
I want to be on, TV now and, oh my God, look at this guy, That's what I want. It's not what God wants. It's not, we all have that. We fight that too. And, that's a sign of spiritual warfare too, that pride wants to come in and ruin you. But it's like, no, God just keeps saying, wait and wait. And, he's got something bigger and I'm waiting. I'm just going to do my work and continue to wait on him.
Right on. Right on. I love your attitude about all of it. I really do. And that's been consistent with every time I've ever spoken to you. Your attitude has always been, you know what? It's in his time, and this is where I'm being led, and I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to go with
Yeah,
it. That's strong.
that's all I can do. You know, I'm 55 now, and for most of my life, I tried to take the reign, and it's brought me to hell. So, um, yeah, I'll go his way now.
Yeah.
I'll do what he wants to do. I
Well,
could throw off, I could dodge off a few arrows here and there now, but once you live, we joke around, but once you live from that place of I didn't wake up for anybody to love me and please me, I just woke up to be loved.
mhm.
When you really live out that concept, it's so free and it is so, um, it's very hard to get me knocked off my game by a circumstance because I don't live in circumstances anymore. I just come out of a place of light and love, and it really it does make a big difference in somebody's life.
People don't, there's a lot of people who are going to hear that and they're going to understand exactly what you just said. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of people who are going to hear that and they're not going to get the magnitude of what that means to not be living through your circumstance.
yeah,
And that's very powerful. I got to give you credit for that one, brother. I mean, seriously, that's very strong, and I love hearing you in that spot right now. I think it's great.
that's called transformation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah,
Good for you, man. That's awesome. All right. Well, you set the stage perfectly for the segue to my corny question. Okay. Because, we're getting all, like in our fields and stuff. So here we go. My corny question I ask everybody on this show, and that is when it comes to doing the podcast itself, what is it about doing your podcast that you love the most? And what is it about doing your podcast that you just absolutely, positively throw it out the window, can't stand the most?
all right, I'm going to give you corny answers. Okay,
Okay.
what I love about the podcast is I'm God has identified me as a dreamer, a resilient dreamer influencer. So I love what he puts on me, the creativity that he has put on me, and I love creating those podcasts. I love creating, I've done everything pretty much myself because I really can't afford every things. I mean, I had somebody help me with the book and whatnot, but like the website and it's just a small website, but just being creative and creating the podcast and being able to do what I want to do without being told what to do is the most fun. What I hate most about the podcast, and this is going to be the corny answer, is when a gosh darn fly is in my office and I can't get it. Have you ever, we've all had to, if we're doing video podcasts, we've all experienced it to where it
Hmm.
goes flying across the screen or it lands on my bald head. And, you could try to edit it out and you continue to repeat. And I got so tired of repeating something for 5 times because of this dang fly. And then you can't find it when you pause the camera, you can't find it. And you're like, okay, I left the door open. He went out and you shut the door and you go back to recording and he's like, and that drives me crazy. But it doesn't bother me with the editing. It doesn't bother me with, um, you know, getting it up and putting it on and stuff like that. But that kind of stuff bothers me. I've got a window right here in front of me. So maybe you'll start and you'll be in the moment and then somebody comes out to start cutting grass and you're just like, really? So then I'll have to wait 45 minutes or an hour. On Tuesdays, I can't record it Tuesdays at, 11:30 because the trash truck comes right outside and starts dumping and, just stuff like that. The things that most people that listen to podcasts that don't do a podcast probably don't think about, but there's a lot of, for the little guys that don't have studios, locked in their basement or a separate building, those that just have a house with dogs and kids. And, occasionally you'll see a 7-year-old look in the window behind me at in the office door. And you're just like, what are you doing? Do you not see the do not disturb sign? Do I need to put a light out there? Um, but yeah, the fly is the one.
The fly is the thing. I Give me all the credit in the world. I keep asking this corny question because I keep getting unique answers to it,
Yeah.
and it's just hilarious. And no one's ever said the fly
Yeah.
in the room was their thing, but we've all experienced it. We've all had, that bug or whatever flying around. You're like, oh, come on, you know.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's
It
so
will
funny.
take down a podcast. Because the
Again,
trash truck comes, you can wait 10 minutes, it goes down the road, and you just hit resume.
hmm
But the fly just, man, that's the devil. That just keeps coming back and coming back. And then he brings a friend, and then, it just doesn't stop.
yep. He brings a friend. Oh, I love it, man. Okay. Oh man, I hate it when they bring a friend. That's the worst thing in the world. All right. Okay, I still have one more question for you before we round out, but and I really do appreciate you being on this one, and looking forward to having you on a fourth one here coming up. Possibly, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But hey, tell everybody where can they find the book? Where can they find the podcast? Where can they reach you? I mean, give everybody your contact info, and then we'll circle back around for that last question.
Yeah. Walkrightministries.com is the website. It has the speaking, it has links to the coaching, it has the links to the 12-step community, how to get a hold of me. And the book, it's got links to Amazon. God's Imperfect Plan is Perfect. It's a quick read. It's not you can get it done in a couple of days, but it's, coming from my perspective, it's pretty um, powerful of transformation, true transformation.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
where that comes from, which is God, but
Of course.
don't want to scare people off with that. But that's where that true transformation comes from.
I love it, man. I really do. All right. All right. Let's see. So my last question I usually ask folks, and I'm looking forward to hearing this one from you. And that is, when it comes to, again, doing the podcast, what's your best piece of advice for podcasters who are out there who are just not quite where you are yet?
Do it. If you've got the you're building it up, you're thinking about it, you want to do it, but you feel embarrassed, and maybe it's not a competition, it's you, it's your personality, it's who you are. Go do it. you know and I bought a cheap mic. You could see it behind me. I bought a cheap mic off Amazon with a control board, and it was like $39, and I started listening to myself and going, well, I really do sound like a beginner. um, so number one, do it, and then invest in a good mic, and you're good to go. After that, you're good to go. You'll figure out the recording, you'll figure out, how you want to use the editing and everything like that. But just do it and get a good mic. Because
Nice.
people like you appreciate when we have good communication.
It makes a little bit easier episode, a little easier on the ears, for
Yeah.
everybody who's watching, that's for sure. But no, I like that. Don't go out and blow the bank on, buying all the stuff. Just get started, get going.
Yeah. You could
So,
use GarageBand to record your first
oh yeah,
podcast, and it sounds just fine.
yep.
So, but take the step, do it, because it's a lot of fun and it's very rewarding. It's almost like therapy too.
Hmm.
You get to talk, you get to release stuff, you get to say what you really think without, too many people talking back to you. And it's just, man, I love it. I'm loving it so far.
That's fantastic, man. Well, you're good at it, and your show is excellent. I want to recommend it to everybody. So please go check it out. And I'm telling you, Steve, thank you so much, man, for being on. Husband, father, author, podcaster, speaker. Uh, Steve Rotermund. Steve, thank you so much, man, for being here, for completing a third interview with this guy over here. I'm grateful for you coming on and telling your story to this particular audience, and really looking forward to working with you again in the future, man.
Yeah. Hey, I'm honored to be on your show. I appreciate it. I'm learning from you just watching your podcast. So thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I'm a nobody right now, and I'm just honored to be on your show. So thank you.
Everybody's a somebody. Come on now.
Yeah.
All right, brother. All right, folks, that's been another fantastic episode of the Podcaster Nation. And the reason that we have such powerful podcasters on here with these great messages is because this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And we proved yet again today, folks, that this is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.